With its massive building rising from the countryside with an aura of fading majesty, Hollowbrook Manor stood as a magnificent witness to a bygone era. The elaborate stonework on the outer walls, which had deteriorated from exposure to the elements and time, gave hints at the artistry of earlier generations. The front was punctured by tall, arched windows, their once clear glass now obscured by the patina of age. One couldn't help but experience a mixture of amazement and anxiety as they drew near the manor. The expansive grounds, which had formerly been neatly kept, were now covered in ivy and tangled underbrush. The entryway, which was flanked by elaborate iron gates, creaked open with a menacing echo as if luring the curious to enter the uncharted territory. The impressive entrance hall welcomed guests with its high ceilings and gorgeous marble flooring, which had become chipped and weathered over time. A broad staircase that curved uphill to the left was embellished on the banisters, with beautiful carvings that evoked a bygone beauty. The old stained glass windows let in beams of sunshine that were filtered by dust particles, giving the abandoned room an ethereal radiance. One found a maze of rooms as they ventured deeper into the manor, each whispering of long-forgotten legends. The enormous ballroom, now in a state of ruin, originally hosted lavish events and lively soirees. Currently, ratty curtains hung from wrought iron fittings, flowing somberly in the slightest breeze, as though still yearning for the joyous times. The dining room's large, worn table has been the scene of innumerable feasts and lively discussions. However, the only sound in the room at this point was the sporadic creaking of the floors underfoot. Cobwebs blanketed abandoned chairs like frail tapestries, while dust-coated cutlery lay untouched as if stuck in time. The shelves of the library, a haven of information, were filled with books that had fallen victim to deterioration. Their brittle, yellowed pages mumbled tales and wisdom that had long since been forgotten. The musty air and the smell of old parchment combined to produce a heady, delicious nostalgia. The once stately halls of Hollowbrook Manor took on a different atmosphere as dusk fell. Through broken windows, the waning light cast dancing and playful shadows. Whispers appeared to come from obscure locations, their source being obscure and their significance being lost to time. An air of expectation permeated the interior of the manor. The Hollowbrook family's ghosts, who were inextricably linked to their tragic past, agitated restlessly. The soft brush of a chilly air, the echo of far-off footfall, and the faint odor of long-extinguished candles all hinted at their ethereal presence. The fading magnificence of Hollowbrook Manor served as a somber reminder of a life once lived, standing as a witness to the passage of time. It was a location where the line between the physical world from the ethereal world began to blur, luring those with the courage to enter into a place where ghosts from the past still roamed free. If there is anything special you'd like me to concentrate on within the unrestricted word count or when you're ready to continue the story, just let me know. The presence of restless spirits deep within Hollowbrook Manor intensified, their ghostly forms disturbing the very soul of the historic home. Shadows clung to the walls and moved in a way that suggested they were anxious to reveal the secrets they carried. A ghostly apparition appeared in the big ballroom, where merriment and music had once filled the space. The transparent woman moved gently across the aged, dusty floor while wearing a flowing gown. The room was filled with the faint melodies of a waltz, as if memories of previous celebrations were still present in the spiritual world. The dining room was used as a location for ghostly meetings. Disembodied voices whispered, forgotten conversations, fusing with the sound of ghostly footfall. It appeared as though the Hollowbrook family dined with phantoms forever as cutlery clattered against empty plates. The library, a haven for lost information, was transformed into a ghost's playground. Books that had previously been unused on shelves began to move on their own, with the pages flipping as though directed by invisible hands. As visitors drew near, whispers of long-forgotten stories and unspoken truths swirled through the air before dissipating into a spectral mist. The chapel became the center of supernatural force as midnight drew near. The vacant pews were filled with soft chants and hymns that gave the room an ethereal atmosphere. The spectral voices danced in sync with the odd shadows cast by the flickering candles, which had an uncanny light about them. A chilly, menacing aura lingered in the basement of the manor, as if an unseen power were issuing a warning for intruders to flee. The air became oppressive and heavy. Those who dared enter its depths trembled in horror as whispers of doom resonated down the dimly illuminated halls. The spectral image of a tortured soul appeared in the master bedroom, where Jonathan Hollowbrook met his awful demise. His face held the weight of the family's failure, its features forever etched with sorrow and remorse. His heartbroken cries reverberated throughout the night as he paced the room in an eternal search for atonement. Elizabeth Hollowbrook's existence remained a mystery. We only sometimes caught a glimpse of her ghostly form in the moonlit hallways. Her ghostly form, clad in a white gown, radiated a sense of melancholy and desire. Visitors were invited to learn the truth about her terrible death by her voice, a soft whisper in the breeze. The fascination for individuals looking for answers to Hollowbrook Manor's secrets grew as its paranormal activities escalated. With cutting-edge equipment in hand, paranormal researchers descended on the mansion to gather proof of the ghostly occupants. Intriguing evap recordings of spectral whispers and messages exposing traces of the Hollowbrook family's tragic past were made. Hollowbrook Manor was a monument to the tenacity of ghosts and the ingrained suffering that lingered in its corridors. The tragic heritage of the Hollowbrook family continued to shroud the old mansion in a spectral cloak, calling out to daring adventurers to unlock its mysteries and bring comfort to the wandering ghosts. Hollowbrook Manor became a hub of mysterious occurrences as the moon rose to its highest point, obfuscating the boundary between the physical world and the ethereal plane. Visitors that dared to explore its depths saw several paranormal occurrences, their senses being overpowered by the unexplainable. Spectral orbs appeared in the magnificent ballroom where the phantom figure had danced, lingering in the air like ethereal fireflies. These glowing spheres glowed softly and iridescently, filling the space with an unsettling radiance as they pulsed with an alien energy. The laughter in the distance nearly sounded like it was being shared by the ghosts of long-dead partygoers, as synchronized dances were performed by silverware suspended in midair. The dining hall came to life. Without a wind gust, the chandeliers swayed and tinkled, and phantom breath gusts extinguished the candles, briefly engulfing the space in darkness. A lingering aroma from a lavish feast pervaded the room, serving as a spectral reminder of the opulence that once adorned the empty table. Books in the library seemed to float from their shelves and spin in the air, waiting to be read by invisible hands. Pages began to turn on their own, revealing paragraphs that discussed hidden secrets and forgotten facts. Those who were standing amid the shelves heard words being spoken into their ears, transmitting wisdom from the hereafter. The chapel transformed into a hub of ethereal sounds that blended together in a symphony of ghostly whispers. Shadows flitted down the walls, transforming into ethereal forms that resembled the tortured spirits confined inside the manor. Those who were brave enough to enter felt their hair stand on end, and their spines tingle as the air crackled with an electrical charge. An unpleasant presence grew stronger in the basement. The air was bone, chillingly cold, and with each exhalation, wisps of frozen breath seemed to appear. With each passing second, the sound of phantom footfall resonated down the dim hallways and grew ominous and louder. Some claimed to have sensed a malicious power, tried to prevent them from learning the mysteries buried below by tightening an invisible grip around their necks. Within Hollowbrook Manor, time seemed to distort as the barrier between worlds grew thinner. Visitors described feeling disoriented, as though minutes dragged into hours and hours and hours into mere seconds. The limitations of traditional timekeeping were defied by the irregular ticking of the clocks and the frenzied spinning of their hands. But there was a palpable undercurrent of melancholy in the air amid the confusion of spectral abnormalities. The weight of sorrow that had remained for ages was carried by whispers of lament as they reverberated through the hallways. The Hollowbrook family's ghosts, who were imprisoned within the walls of the manor forever, looked for consolation and redemption. Their ghostly presence served as a constant reminder of the terrible things that happened to them. Hollowbrook Manor was poised for discovery as the clock struck midnight. The energies that kept the spirits in their earthly domain begged to be freed because they yearned for closure and the opportunity to find peace outside the realm of the living. The shocking find sent chills down the spines of those who dared to dive into the secrets of Hollowbrook Manor's paranormal happenings. A neglected diary that contained the details of a wicked agreement for perpetual life was discovered deep within the rotting library. A member of the Hollowbrook family kept a diary, and it contained a grim narrative of desperation and forbidden passions. It told of a crucial evening when Jonathan Hollowbrook, motivated by his unquenchable desire for immortality, struck a deal with a malicious being. A page and a half of the diary described the commitments and sacrifices that this dark force required in exchange for eternal existence. A unsettling gap in the diary's story was left by the shredded page that contained the most important details. Understanding the repercussions and the pact's full nature depended on finding the missing half. It seems as though the ghosts of Hollowbrook Manor were trying to hide the awful realities of their existence. As a horrifying vision appeared on the walls, there was a collective gasp throughout the library. Bloodstains started to develop, slowly forming sinister patterns as they seeped through the wallpaper. They appeared to be a macabre tapestry made by invisible hands that told a story of violence and despair. A cacophony of uncanny voices filled the space as whispers, full of ill will, swirled across the stuffy air. They growled, freezing the visitor's bones to the marrow. "You won't leave here alive." The darkness grip intensified, crushing the tiniest glimmer of hope that still burned in their hearts. As if the ghosts of Hollowbrook Manor had awoken from their sleep, wrathful and spiteful, fear hung to the air like a smothering cloud. Doors closed violently, imprisoning all who were confined within its walls. The room was filled with chilly gusts of wind that carried a foreboding message of impending disaster. The people who were looking for answers, however, were steadfast in their commitment, despite the gathering darkness and the terrible threat that lingered. To find the missing page and break the curse that held Hollowbrook Manor captive, they braved the terror while clinging to the incomplete journal with their shaking hands. A silent vow resounded across the room in the ensuing hush. Sensing these truth-seekers' tenacity, the spirits reluctantly withdrew, providing a little reprieve. It was a brief respite from the magical tempest that swirled behind the walls of the manor. The tourists realized that their voyage had only just begun as they clung to their flickering candles. A darker mystery that drew them deeper into the heart of evil had been revealed by the discovery of the torn diary page. The ghosts of Hollowbrook Manor would do anything to prevent the truth from being revealed, now that they have reawakened a dormant force. The remaining guests of Hollowbrook Manor were terrified, and the once welcoming doors quickly shut, trapping them inside its eerie walls. Fear gripped those who saw their friends vanish into the grasp of the vindictive ghosts that prowled the darkness, one by one, and infected their hearts. The desperate search for any form of defense against the ethereal forces out to destroy them permeated the air as those left behind combed the gloomy chambers. In a desperate attempt to discover something that may calm the spirits or drive them to the strange realm they belonged to, frantic hands seized at dusty antiquities, antiquated weaponry, and long-forgotten items. They were accompanied throughout their hunt by creaking floorboards and whispers of spectral echoes, which served as a constant reminder of the presence that lurked around every corner. They could feel the evilness escalating, a real force bearing down on them and posing a threat to their own souls. The weight of the ghost's gaze grew heavier with each passing second. Their skin broke out in goosebumps as the air became heavy with an unnatural chill. The spirits seemed to be holding their collective breath in anticipation of their next move, as their breath caught in their throats, and a lingering hush descended upon the manor. Those who were left looked for comfort in one another's eyes in that eerie silence, finding strength in their shared will to live. They were aware that finding the truth about the pact that trapped the Hollowbrook family and satisfying the restless spirits who desired for liberation was their only hope of success. They entered the abandoned tunnels beneath the manor, where darkness and revelation met, led by a flickering candle. They moved forward despite the moist stone walls and the musty odor of decay that permeated the air. Their motivation was a mix of apprehension and optimism. They were looking for undiscovered caverns in the depths. Ancient manuscripts whispered tales of rituals and atonement, while arcane symbols decorated the walls. They discovered an understanding as they analyzed the obscure writings. The spirits yearned for liberation, but only through fulfilling the covenant they had been shackled to for ages. They were faced with a decision: oppose the spirits and expose themselves to their wrath, or delve further into the forbidden knowledge in an effort to complete the bargain and liberate both the living and the dead from this terrible entanglement. They were united in their resolve as they realized that leaving Hollowbrook Manor needed more than just leaving its boundaries. They had to face the fundamental nature of the agreement and work out a solution. They prepared themselves in the final seconds before starting their dangerous expedition. As a final resort, each possessed a relic, a priceless artifact. Others brandished old weapons that had been passed down through the years, while some held sacrosanct amulets. These items held the weight of faith and hope, acting as a lighthouse in the midst of the gathering night. Although they were in for a difficult journey, their resolve was stronger than ever. In the name of atonement and salvation, they would travel perilous passageways, deal with evil spirits, and face the tortured souls that awaited them. More to come.